She's got to be the center of attention at all times. You good? Okay. It is Trans Day of Remembrance, and I'm tired and I'm angry. I'm tired of people debating whether or not me and my trans siblings deserve to use the restroom, deserve to have health care, deserve to play sports, and deserve to exist. I'm tired of not correcting the folks who misgender me because there's a chance they'll retaliate. I'm tired of overhearing folks talk about what they'd do if they saw a trans person in the restroom and having to be grateful I can pass. I'm tired of explaining why being outed can mean life or death for us to cisgender people who cannot begin to understand, and I am tired of staring at myself in the mirror every time I leave the house, wondering if I look male enough and still knowing inside that I'm betraying my non-binary truth, and I'm tired of calling myself non-binary even though I know it's not true, but because cis people still need a label for me. I'm tired of defending my pronouns, I'm tired of correcting my name, I'm tired of posting suicide hotlines and reaching out to every trans person I know the second another law is approved, sending us decades into the past. And I'm angry. I'm angry that I have to come up here and explain to you, cisgender queers and allies, why you need to be outraged too. We're all aware of the bills and laws being passed and enforced across the US. I know you've seen the clips online talking about eradicating trans people from public life. I know you've seen the bills banning gender-affirming care for trans youth. I know you've overheard friends and family members debate whether or not trans folks competing in sports is really fair. I am angry that I have to remind you that your rights, the ones so many of you callously assume won't be touched by this new administration, were built on the backs and blood of Black and brown disabled trans folks. I am angry that so many of you talk about turning grief and rage into action now. Where has that grief and rage been the past 8 years trans rights have been taken away? Why is it only when your rights are in danger and not ours? Last week I went to a GSA summit where the leaders of the local high school's GSAs got to meet and talk about their communities and experiences. Overwhelmingly, the leadership of these clubs are the trans kids, and overwhelmingly they talked about facing the most hate and the most bigotry. When I'm in queer community groups, the ones who stand up and ask how they can help their communities, often at the cost of their own energy, money, and well-being, are the trans folks. When I go online and look for the people making the most change in their local communities, spreading awareness, tackling hate, giving love, it is always my trans siblings. However, when I look at the organized support groups or organizations here, I don't see very many trans people in organized leadership. I see trans people volunteering, I see trans people getting our hands dirty, I see trans people doing the work none of you want to do. I see trans people helping others through crises, sending money and supplies to any queer person in need, prioritizing accessibility, showing up for the youth, staying up late to make sure our friends stay alive, showing up scrappy, showing up tired, showing up anyways. I see trans people doing just as much or even more work in the community, but still being shuttered from having a seat at the table, still not given an equal say in the community. And this isn't a coincidence, and there isn't some secret ingredient in our HRT that makes us more likely to offer our time and energy, something we're already stretching thin just to survive in a world that would be happy to see us dead, to help our queer community survive even when they don't help us back. We are stepping up and choosing to be visible and loud despite the target being placed on our backs, because we are still fighting for the rights you've comfortably had for years. We're still fighting to be seen as people. Well, you've all been patting yourselves on the back for the great work you did fighting the good fight and getting marriage equality. Marsha P. Johnson's body is floating in the Hudson River. Next Benedict is being beaten in the school bathroom, and Kitty Monroe is being chased down the road. And every day right here in Placer County, whether you like it or not, trans kids go to school and trans adults go to work, ready and bracing for bullying and harassment and hoping their names won't be on next year's list of the dead. If you are a cis queer, you owe it to the trans community to get up and do the work we've been doing for you for decades. If you are a cis ally and have been quiet, I wonder if you are really an ally. If you have stayed silent and comfortable in your privilege out of fear of upsetting your right-wing relatives or not wanting to get too political, then your allyship is performative at best. Trans rights are on the front line, and if you don't back us up, it's your head on the chopping block and our blood on your hands. I don't care if calling out your bigoted coworker or speaking at a school board meeting or going to a protest or standing up to your transphobic relative is hard or scary for you, because I promise you that living as a trans person every day in America is 10 times harder and 10 times scarier. And guess what? We're still the ones stepping up. We're still the ones making sure our siblings have their HRT or have access to gender-affirming clothing. We're still the ones making sure homophobia isn't tolerated. We're still the ones standing in solidarity with other marginalized people, because it is impossible to have liberation for some of us and not all of us. To my trans siblings, keep screaming, keep loving each other, keep fighting, keep living, keep finding joy. I've heard so many trans folks casually mention they expect to be dead by 30. I know we live more life than most people in that time, but I'm here to tell you that is not our future. We are powerful and we will survive together because we owe it to our ancestors, our children, and to ourselves to dream of and fight for a better, more loving future. We can care for each other and keep ourselves safe because we deserve more than just survival. We deserve softness and kindness and peace and the ability to thrive. One day we will have our first transgender gold medal Olympian. One day we will walk down any street in America proudly displaying our pronoun pin. One day we will take off our shirts at the beach and no one will bat an eye at our top surgery scars. One day we will wear a dress to the prom for the first time and the only comments will be from people telling us how beautiful we are. One day disabled trans folks will get the health care they need with the respect they deserve. One day we will have a trans president. One day we won't be afraid to go home for the holidays. One day it won't matter what our birth certificate says. One day we will not be afraid, and one day we will have a Trans Remembrance Day, and there will be no names to read.